Anandam buddhivadhanam patipadam punam vitasvadanam sarvatmasnapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna Namakari Bahudanija Sarvasaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smaranena Kala Etadvisita Namakari Bahudanija Sarvasaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smaranena Kala Etadrisi tava kripa Bhagavan mamapi Gurudaivam drisi samihajani Nanuraga Chiradapi sunichena Tararapi sahishnuna Manina manadena Kirtaniya sadahari Nadanam najanam nasundarim Kavitam vajagadisha kamaye Mama janmani janmani sware Avatar bhakti rahaituki Ainandatinurjakinkaram patitam mam vishame Avam buddha kipaya tava padapankaja Stita duli sadrisam chintaya Nayanam galadarus galad asudaraya Vadanam gadyadurudaya jira Pulakaya nisitam vapu Kada bhavanamagane bhavishyati Yugaitam nimesena Chatsusa bhavasaitam Sunyai idam jagat sarvam Govinda virahena me Aslishyava padartam vinashrumam Dasanam mamahatam karatuva Kitatata vidada pulam patro Matmananatas tusaeva napara to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is a prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam ki jai. Today is our final session of the seminar, but actually it's only the beginning, because the subject we're going to broach today or cover today is so profound that it is what's called the summum bonum, the Latin term, the most exalted, the greatest and most profound height of spiritual attainment, which is pure and ecstatic love in separation from the Lord. And this was experienced and exemplified by Lord Chaitanya in the last 12 years of his earthly pastimes, where he was virtually always in deep concentration and ecstatic concentration, tasting the different humors of love of Radharani for Lord Krishna. And therefore, in this last chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Lila chapter 20, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami spends the most time and the most verses explaining the last verse of the Siksastakam. As we said before, Siksastakam can also be considered to be greater than the Srimad Bhagavatam, because it's spoken by Lord Chaitanya, who is the combined form of Radha and Krishna. And Krishna wanted to experience what it is in him that is causing Srimati Radharani to be so much in ecstasy. And so he wanted to take the position of Radharani in order to understand his own transcendental qualities that cause her to be in such states of ecstasy. And then he wanted to actually taste or experience her ecstasy. And so there were three external reasons why the Lord appeared. Or two external reasons. One is to spread or preach the significance of chanting Hare Krishna. And two, answer the call of Advaitacharya, who begged the Lord to please appear in this Kali Yuga. And then there's three confidential reasons why the Lord appeared. And then one is relish the position of Radharani, and then understand the transcendental mellow of himself, and then enjoy the bliss tasted by Srimati Radharani. So you have three confidential reasons, two external reasons why the Lord appeared. First is preach the glories of chanting Hare Krishna, and then answer the call of Advaitacharya. Those are the two external reasons. And then the internal reasons are, one, relish the position of Radharani. In other words, how is she seeing Krishna and from her position of being completely surrendered to the Lord and serving the Lord with love and devotion? And then number two, understand the transcendental mellow of himself, those qualities he has that causes her to feel so much ecstatic love for him. And then number three, actually enjoy the bliss that she is experiencing. He couldn't do this or understand these properly by himself. That's why he had to accept her position and her emotions and so forth, or experience her emotions. Okay, so now this is at the end of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's several chapters where we're actually, where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is revealing to us how Lord Chaitanya, in the position of Radharani, is tasting the transcendental bliss of himself in the way Radharani does. So, So at this point, Krishna says, Lord Chaitanya says, Nayanam galad asrudaraya vadanam gadyadrudaya jira pulakarni sitam vapu kada tavana bhagani bhavishyati. And he says, my dear Lord, when will my eyes be beautified by filling with tears? They constantly glide down as I chant your holy name. When will my voice choke? When will my voice falter and all the hairs of my body stand on end, erect in transcendental happiness as I chant your holy names? So this is a very significant verse, because now we're going into transcendental ecstatic feelings of the Lord, and it's very. If we go to Brahma Samhita, text 38, it says, Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santak sadeva hridaye suvilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya gunaswarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shama Sundara, Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion, tinged with the salve of love. So, eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. It's very important statements. So this Sham Sundar form, the one we're seeing here, it's called Tribhanga. Tribhanga Lalita Niyatam Prakasham. So it says also Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam, with inconceivable attributes, and Sundaram, unimaginably beautiful, with inconceivable transcendental attributes. So this form of Krishna is his inconceivable, simultaneous, personal and impersonal, self-contradictory form. So this is the difference between human beings and Krishna. He has self-contradictory forms. And we went over this before. He's very far away, but yet he's very near. He walks and he doesn't walk. He's present in Vaikuntha always and never leaves, but yet he's present everywhere in the universe. These are self-contradictory, simultaneously self-contradictory attributes, but yet we can't do this. There's no way we could do any of these things, but yet he can do it because he has Parasya Shakti Vividaya Vashriyate, unimaginable potencies. And therefore, because of his infinite potencies, he can reconcile these self-contradictory qualities. We can't. It's unimaginable to us. So, true devotees see that form in their purified hearts under the influence of devotional trance. So what is this devotional trance? This is something that the Prakritya Sahajas imitate in a very gross and disgusting way. But if you see them imitate it, you would think it's real. I don't know, have you ever seen the alls and the balls and the kartava, the different illicit sampradayas, Vaishnava sampradayas in Bengal? Have you ever seen them? Yeah. Well, they pretend to have these symptoms of ecstatic love for Krishna, but they're very convincing when you see them. But here Prabhupada's going to talk about it. And it's actually disgusting what they do. But if you see it for the first time, you would be bewildered. You would think they actually have pure love for Radha and Krishna. The form Shama is not the blue color visible in the mundane world, but is the transcendental variegated color affording eternal bliss, and is not visible to the mortal eye. On a consideration of the trance of Vyasadeva, as in the sloka, Bhakti Yogena Manasi. So, can we get the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam? Yeah. On a consideration of the trance of Vyasadeva, as in the sloka, Bhakti Yogena Manasi, etc., it will be clear that the form of Sri Krishna is the full personality of Godhead and can only be visible in the heart of a true devotee, which is the only true seat in the state of trance under the influence of devotion. So one can attain this the state of trance, of purified vision of the Lord in the heart, in his Shamsundar form, by chanting Hare Krishna, but very intensely for a long, long time, and engaging sincerely in devotional service and following the previous prayers that Lord Chaitanya presented, Chinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saistana, more humble than the grass in the street, more tolerant than the tree, ready to offer respect to all others, even those that don't respect you, and not seeking to be honored by the service that we perform. It is clear, one consideration of the trance of Vyasadeva, as in the sloka, Bhakti Yogena Manasi. And that's Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 7th chapter, verse number 4. So let's take a look at that. Let's see here. 174. That's not it. Okay. I'm sorry. Just 1 second. Let me find this. This is 7-4. What does it mean? Index of Sanskrit verses. So this 7-4. So 1-7. Yeah. Okay. It says, thus he fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in devotional service, bhakti yoga, without any tinge of materialism. And thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control. So here we have a verse that's talking about how Vyasadeva fixes his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in devotional service or bhakti yoga without any tinge of materialism. So in other words, it's pure devotional service without any desire for self-benefit. And thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control. So in this purport, Prabhupada says, perfect vision of the absolute truth is possible only by the linking process of devotional service. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. One can perfectly realize the absolute truth, personality of Godhead, only by the process of devotional service, and one can enter into the kingdom of God by such perfect knowledge. So this eliminates right away everyone that's engaged in so-called pious activities. For example, Satyanarayana Puja, going on different pilgrimages, building water fountains for pilgrims in the holy places and things like that. They're all good things to do. But none of those things will give you a vision of Krishna as Vyasadeva is having here. And what's being referred to in this verse of Brahma Samhita, verse 38. Why? Because each one of those activities is performed with some self-interest. Like, for example, the Birlas, they build temples for Krishna. But the name of the temple is Birla Mandir. So that is not pure devotional service. It's nice what they do. There's nothing, I'm glad they do it. But everything depends on the motivation of the person. Just like one time a person had a dog, and the dog was licking their face. And they were thinking, oh, how much does this dog love me? Just look, he's licking my face. But the dog was thinking, oh, one day I'm going to eat you also. So, the person is interpreting the licking of his face by the dog as love. But the dog is simply tasting how tasty he will be when he eats him. you see. So, in the same way, you can meet a pseudo-devotee like the Prakrita Sahajas, or the 13, a member of one of the 13 different apasampradayas, or false sampradayas of Vaishnavism, and they will swoon, they'll faint while they're chanting Hare Krishna, they'll cry while they're chanting Hare Krishna, their body starts shaking, and you think, oh, this person has attained real love of Krishna. But actually, it's not true. So then how can you tell? How can you tell? Well, you have to wait, you have to be a little patient and see what they do after their ecstasy. And one time I saw one of these people, and he chanted Hare Krishna ecstatically, and he swooned, and at that point I was convinced this person has reached that pinnacle of Krishna consciousness, of real love for Krishna. Just look how he sings so sincerely, and how he has tears in his eyes, and all these things. Then afterwards, he went out drinking and smoking with his girlfriend. He had some American girlfriend, very trashy woman that he was living with. And I didn't know that at the time. Then I found out later on. And a lot of, sometimes, in order to achieve those states, they smoke ganja. I didn't know those things, but I found out later on, and it was very shocking because they chant Hare Krishna. They talk about Chaitanya. They sing the Bengali songs written by acharyas, and when they sing beautifully, or let's say emotionally. So you might not be able to see it right away, but if you wait long enough, you'll see that they have these really bad habits, and how they can go from one thing to the other is perplexing. The only way you can explain it is what they're doing is they're faking it, and they have no sense of right and wrong. They do it professionally. Just like you can hire professional wailers for a funeral, right? Sometimes, people don't think that the people in the funeral are really have any love for the person who's dead, because they're not crying. So they hire professional criers. They'll wail, and they'll pull, like pulling their hair, and they'll fall down, and they'll start screaming, and they're professionals. And people hire them to create the emotion of the funeral, So, the same way, you have these fake Vaishnavas who become expert at pretending. Just like you get a great actor, and like for example, James Dean. He was a young guy. He was very handsome. He was a good actor. One of his most famous scenes, he cries. But they're real tears. It's not like phony tears. He knew how to do it. He had real tears, and his emotion looks so real. He's a great actor, right? He actually, entered into the bhava of that, nonsense actor, or that nonsense character that he was playing, and people thought he was a great actor, but he had the worst habits in his personal life. So he just does it professionally. So, imperfect realization of the Absolute by the partial approach of the impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma does not permit anyone to enter into the kingdom of God. Sri Narada advised Srila Vyasadeva to become absorbed in transcendental meditation on the personality of Godhead and his activities. So, there's one buffoon who's teaching transcendental meditation, right? But now we're going to hear what real transcendental meditation is. This is explained by Prabhupada in the Bhagavad Gita. If I can find this, let's see here. There's a purport in Bhagavad Gita where Prabhupada refers to chanting Hare Krishna as transcendental meditation. You know where it is?
Mystic meditation.
Oh, it says mystic meditation, yeah. Do you know which one it is? Anyway, we'll find it. We'll come back to it. Yeah, he says mystic meditation, you're right. But, let me just see here. 8.8, yeah, that's right. Very good. All right, we'll take a look at it. You see, I don't see.
8.8.
Is it 8.8? Can you read it, what it says?
Yeah.
Oh, this mystic meditation is very easy to practice, and it helps one attain the Supreme Lord. Okay, yeah. And you said 6.1 also?
6.1.
He says mystic, true mystic.
No, mystic, not meditation.
Not like
Okay, so it's mystic meditation. Yeah, I thought he said transcendental meditation somewhere else. Okay, we'll come back to that. So here he's saying transcendental meditation. Sri Narada advises Srila Vyasadeva to become absorbed in transcendental meditation on the personality of Godhead and his activities. Srila Vyasadeva. So, what is the other person, the buffoon? What does the buffoon say is transcendental meditation? You know who the buffoon is? Yeah. So what does he say? Why don't you look it up on the internet and see what he says is transcendental meditation? Because here, Vyasadeva, Prabhupada says that Narada Muni advised Srila Vyasadeva to become absorbed in transcendental meditation on the personality of Godhead and his activities. So transcendental meditation is focusing one's complete attention on Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his activities or pastimes. That's what transcendental meditation actually is. Srila Vyasadeva did not take notice of the effulgence of Brahman. Not interested in Brahman. Because that is not absolute vision. The absolute vision is the personality of Godhead, as is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:19. Bahunam janmanamante jnanabhamam prapadyante vasudeva saramiti sa mahatma sudur labha. So the real transcendental meditation is focusing on Krishna's transcendental form. Actually, Prabhu, give me a pen. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Krishna, you are everything. After many, many lifetimes, births, many, many births and deaths, when one comes to full knowledge, they say, Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Krishna, you are everything for me. And such a person is a real Mahatma, a real sage. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. In the Upanishads also it's confirmed that Vasudeva, or Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is covered by the golden glowing Hiranmayana Patrena. veil of impersonal Brahman. Yes, so it says in the Ishopanishad, the 15th mantra says, Hiranmayana patrena satyasya pihitam bukam tattvam pusam apavrinu satyadharmaya dristaye. O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. That's called the Brahman effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee. So, Ishopanishad is a devotee, is a person. The Upanishads are persons, they're not books. And they're always, in Vaikuntha, they surround the Lord. And they're always chanting the glories of the Lord. So these are prayers by the personalities who are the Upanishads. And it says, after that, Pusa nekase yamasriya prajapatya vyuha rasmin samaha teja yatte rupam kalyantabam tate pasyami yosavaso purushaha sohamasmi. O my Lord, O primeval philosopher, maintainer of the universe, O regulating principle, destination of the pure devotees, well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind, please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form of bliss. You are the eternal Supreme Personality of Godhead, like unto the sun as am I. So, then they don't say, oh, your absolute realization is this halo of light. No. The devotees say, take it away so we can see your smiling face. You say, so okay, what does the buffoon say? That is transcendental meditation. Did you see? Speak out loud.
Transcendental meditation.
Yeah, microphone. Go ahead. Speak out.
Meditation is a simple, natural technique. This form of meditation allows your body to settle into a state of profound rest and relaxation, and your mind to achieve a state of inner peace without needing to use concentration or effort.
So is there any mention of Krishna? So you say, yeah.
It's not you just practice 20 minutes with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
It's enjoyable to practice. It's not a religion, philosophy, or lifestyle.
Wonderful. So here we see a diametrically opposed definition of transcendental meditation. So here, Narada Muni says that transcendental meditation is on the personality of Godhead and His activities. And the buffoon says it's what? It's a non-religious state of peace or so. What did he say? How did he define it?
He's saying,
say it. Read.
It's not
speak into the microphone.
Yeah. It allows, this form of meditation allows your body to settle into a state of profound rest and relaxation, and your mind to achieve a state of inner peace without needing to use concentration or effort.
Okay, so there's no mention at all of Krishna or his transcendental activity. So which authority should we believe? Narada Muni, who's the guru of Vyasadeva, right? And in a sense, a direct disciple of Krishna. Or should we believe, his guru is Lord Brahma himself. Or should we believe this upstart who claims that transcendental meditation is a deep state of rest and it's non-religious and has nothing to do with God? You see what we're up against in modern times? You have a lot of misrepresentation going on, and people accept these unbona fide people as authorities. And how would they know that they're not authorities? Well, they have no way of knowing unless they hear the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita spoken by a genuine devotee. Otherwise, it's impossible. because these people have such a, let's say, a stranglehold on the media and publicity that most people never have any access to bona fide Vaishnava philosophy. Yeah. And it's a very sad situation. And people are being misled. They spend all their time and money on some kind of phony process of transcendental meditation, and they avoid the real process. Yeah. So, in the Upanishads, mainly Isha Upanishad, which I just read from, Isha Upanishad, also it is confirmed that Vasudeva, or Krishna, the personality of God, is covered by the golden glowing Hiranmayana Patrina, veil of impersonal Brahman. So this is explained in Bhagavad Gita in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where it says, Krishna says, Naham prakasasarvas yogamaya samanvitaha mudoyam nabijanati mam evam param avyayam. So it says that Lokamamajam avyayam. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, called Yoga Maya. And therefore, they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. It may be argued that since Krishna was present on this earth and was visible to everyone, then why isn't he manifest to everyone now? But actually, he was not manifest to everyone. When Krishna was present, there were only a few people who could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the assembly of the Kurus, when Sisupala spoke against Krishna's being elected president of the assembly, Bhisma supported him and proclaimed him, Bhisma supported Krishna and proclaimed him to be the Supreme God. So, in other words, Sisupala is looking right at Krishna. It's not that, oh, we can't see God today, that's why we don't believe in him. Sisupala was looking right at Krishna and said, this guy's a rascal. He should not be honored in this assembly. But Bhisma stood up and countered him. And he said that, no, Krishna is the Supreme God. Similarly, the Pandavas and a few others knew that Krishna was the Supreme, but not everyone. So there were a lot of people in the assembly of the Kurus. The assembly of the Rajasuya sacrifice of Yudhisthira Maharaj. And many of them were very exalted personalities. None of them understood who Krishna was. Only a few people did. He was not revealed to the non-devotees and the common man. Well, here's a common man and non-devotee who pretends to be some big guru, right? And is teaching transcendental meditation. But he has no idea who Krishna is. But yet he claims to be teaching transcendental meditation. You see how unfortunate people are in this world. But it's nothing new. Even 5,000 years ago, most people didn't understand Krishna, although he was standing right in front of them. And they were seeing him with their own eyes. They thought he was just a member of their family. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, but for his pure devotees, all men consider him to be like themselves. He was manifest only to his devotees as the reservoir of all pleasure, but to others, to unintelligent non-devotees, he was covered by his internal potency. Internal potency is going to be explained now. This is all in the Bhagavad Gita. In the prayers of Kunti in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.8.19, it is said that the Lord is covered by the curtain of Yogamaya, and thus ordinary people cannot understand him. This Yogamaya curtain is also confirmed in the Isha Upanishad, Mantra 15, what we just read, in which the devotee prays, a devotee. The Upanishad is a devotee. Each one of the Upanishads are devotees. They have eternal existence, and they're eternally glorifying the Lord in Vaikuntha with the verses of the Upanishads. O my Lord, you are the maintainer of the entire universe, and devotional service to you is the highest religious principle. Therefore, I pray that you will also maintain me. Your transcendental form is covered by the Yogamaya. The Brahmajyoti is the covering of the internal potency. May you kindly remove this glowing effulgence that impedes my seeing your Satchitananda Vigraha, your eternal form of bliss and knowledge. So the Brahmajyoti, this brilliant effulgence coming from the body of Krishna is actually blinding the non-devotees. But for the devotees, they pray to the Lord, Hiranmayana patrena satyasya pitam mukam tattvam pusamapavrinu satyadharmaya dristaye. So, you see here, the translation in the Ishopanishad book says, O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee. However, here in the Bhagavad Gita, he gives a more extended definition, version of the verse, and he says, O my Lord, you are the maintainer of the entire universe, and devotional service to you is the highest religious principle. Therefore, I pray that you will also maintain me. Your transcendental form is covered by the Yogamaya. Yogamaya is his internal potency, by which his devotees are put into illusion so that they can come closer to him. But his external potency is called Mahamaya, represented by Durga Mata. And that potency puts people in illusion by which they can go farther away from Krishna. Because in order to go away from Krishna, you have to be an illusion. The illusion is, there is no God, we all come from monkeys, and the purpose of life is just to enjoy. So let's enjoy eating, drinking, and all those good things that people do on New Year's Eve and in the casino. They go there to do all those good things, breaking all the regulative principles of spiritual life. Drinking champagne and talking nonsense, smoking cigars, cigarettes, eating meat, and seeing flesh shows, and so forth. This is what they do for a good time, right? In other words, they break the 4 regulative principles of spiritual life. No meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication, right? So they have palaces, temples, for breaking the regulative principles. They're called casinos, they're called movie houses, they're called bars. These are places where people go for entertainment. But they enter narak. It's enter narak. It's not entertainment, see? And, yes. Go ahead. Speak louder, we can't hear you.
Previously, the devotee you mentioned.
It's on. Just speak into the mic. You don't have to put it on. It is on.
Previously, you mentioned the devotee you prays to Krishna to remove the effulgence that's coming out from him, and next you mentioned about Yogamaya and Mahamaya.
Yes.
How Yogamaya devotees get closer to him, and Mahamaya.
Yes, like Mother Yasoda. She cannot tie Krishna up. She cannot scold him if she thought he is Narayana.
Yeah.
Right? She has to forget that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead and just think that he is her son.
Yes.
And she loves him, yes, not because he's God, but because it's her son. Yes. And therefore she can have a normal mother-son relationship. Yes. If she thinks he's God, yes, she wouldn't be able to do any of those things.
The question, Prabhu, is when Arjuna was attached to the two-handed form of Krishna, and during the Kurukshetra, he asks to see the universal form, and Krishna gives him the divine eyes, blesses him with the divine eyes. Now, Arjuna was already seeing the topmost form of Krishna, the two-handed form. What is the definition of divine eyes when he is already seeing Krishna in his two-handed form? What is more divine than that?
Well, Arjuna is an ordinary jiva, but has eternal liberation because he's always with Krishna in his pastimes in the material world. But in order to see the universal form, you have to have divine eyes. You have to enter the fourth dimension, where you see no longer in terms of limited time and space. Space meaning length, width, and height, right? You no longer see in those three dimensions. In order to see the universal form, you have to see in four dimensions, where there's no limitation of time and space. So universal form is a form of Krishna that encompasses or includes everything in the material universe. Now, with your eyes, could you see something like that? No. So you need to get an expansion of your ability to see. And he calls that, divine eyes. So the exact verse is, O Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold it once in this body of mine. This universal form can show you whatever you now desire to see and whatever you may want to see in the future. Everything moving and non-moving is here completely in one place. See here, O best of Bharatas, Arjuna, see here the different manifestations of Adityas, Vasus, Rudras, Aswini Kumars, and all other demigods. Behold the many wonderful things which no one has ever seen or heard of before. O my dear Arjuna, see now my opulences, hundreds and thousands of very divine and multicolored forms. So at that point, he says to Arjuna, well, he says he's going to give him the divine eyes to see, right? So you could not see such a thing with your ordinary eyes. It would be impossible. You need to get the special, vision, expansion. Yeah.
Probably the question that it's still a little bit not. I understood what you are saying.
Yeah.
Still, there is some amount of doubt, in the sense like comparing the devotee who wishes to see who does not wish to see the Brahma Jyoti, but he wishes to see the person behind. And here, Arjuna, who is attached to the two-handed form, which is a topmost form, but he wants to see the universal.
Okay, the explanation is given here in the third purport to the third verse, 11th chapter. It says, Arjuna did not have any personal desire for confirmation that Krishna is God. Krishna also understands that Arjuna wants to see the universal form, to set a criterion for in the future there would be so many impostors who would pose themselves as incarnations of God. The people, therefore, should be careful. One who claims to be Krishna should be prepared to show his universal form to confirm his claim to the people. Okay? That's why. Otherwise, Arjuna was not. It says here, it says here, says Arjuna himself, therefore, Krishna understood that Arjuna did not have a special desire to see him in his universal form, for Arjuna is completely satisfied to see him in his personal form of Krishna. But the Lord can understand also that Arjuna wants to see the universal form to convince others. Arjuna did not have any personal desire for confirmation. Krishna also understands that Arjuna wants to see the universal form to set a criterion, for in the future there would be so many impostors who would pose themselves as incarnations of God. The people, therefore, should be careful. One who claims to be Krishna should be prepared to show his universal form to confirm his claim to the people. Okay. Now, there's somewhere he says, I give you these divine eyes. Where is... I don't see that here. It's amazing. Okay, anyway. Huh? If you can find it, find it. The Absolute is mentioned here as Purusha, or person. The Absolute Personality of Godhead is mentioned in so many Vedic literatures and in the Bhagavad Gita. The Purusha is confirmed as the eternal and original person. The Absolute Personality of Godhead is the perfect person. The Supreme Person has manifold energies, out of which the internal, external, and marginal energies are specifically important. The energy mentioned here is the external energy, as will be clear from the statements of her activities. The internal energy is there along with the Absolute Person, as the moonlight is there with the moon. The external energy is compared to darkness because it keeps the living entities in the darkness of ignorance. The word apastrayam suggests that this energy of the Lord is under full control. The internal potency or superior energy is also called Maya, but it is spiritual Maya, or energy exhibited in the absolute realm. When one is under the shelter of this internal potency, the darkness of material ignorance is at once dissipated, and even those who are Atmarama, or fixed in trance, take shelter of this Maya, or internal energy. Devotional service or bhakti yoga is the function of the internal energy. Thus there is no place for the inferior energy or material energy, just as there is no place for darkness in the effulgence of spiritual light. Such internal energy is even superior to the spiritual bliss attainable in the conception of impersonal Brahman. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that the impersonal Brahman effulgence is also an emanation from the Absolute Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. The Parama Purusha cannot be anyone except Sri Krishna himself, as will be explained in later slokas. So here's an excellent purport that explains the difference between Mahamaya and Yogamaya. Huh? Which one? 11.8?
11.8.
Okay, let's take a look at that. Pasyame Yogamaiswaram, yeah. But you cannot see me with your present eyes, therefore I give you divine eyes. Behold my mystic opulence. Okay. Very good. Yeah. So, 8.4 is talking about mystic meditation, right? Is that right? Oh, I'm sorry, 8.8. Okay. And 174 talks about transcendental meditation. Good. That clears that up. Okay, so coming back to the Brahma Samhita, on a consideration of the trance of Vyasadeva, as in the sloka Bhakti Yogena Manasi, etc., it will be clear that the form of Sri Krishna is the full personality of Godhead and can only be visible in the heart of a true devotee, which is the only true seat in the state of trance under the influence of devotion. When Krishna manifested himself in Vraja, both the devotees and non-devotees saw him with this very eye, but only the devotees cherished him, eternally present in Vraja as the priceless jewel of their heart. Nowadays also the devotees see him in Vraja in their hearts, saturated with devotion, although they do not see him with their eyes. The eye of devotion is nothing but the eye of the pure, unalloyed, spiritual self of the jiva. Okay, now there's a difference now between the normal eye and the eye of devotion. So you see, yesterday I was talking to one lady who told me, "Oh, I come to this temple, but I don't really believe in all these things. You know, I believe in you know, that we come from monkeys. That we all originated from monkeys." I said, "Well, do you have a monkey in your family?" "Well, yeah, I think so. If I go back far enough, I'll find a monkey." I said, "Well, I don't have any monkey in my family." "Oh," I said, "Look, I'm not going to argue with you about Darwinism, and if you want to believe that, you can. But one thing I can tell you, if you keep coming here, you'll realize it's a bunch of nonsense. That we all come from Krishna. We don't come from monkeys. You don't look like a monkey because you didn't come from a monkey. That's why you came from Krishna." But I said the monkeys also come from Krishna, you know. But that's another story that you learn, or it's another fact that you learn when you read the Bhagavatam, how that happens. But you, in the human form, your origin is not monkeys. So you see how people are brainwashed by public education, you know. And she told me, "Well, you know, I wear this sari and everything, but I don't really believe in all this. But I like it. I like the way a sari feels when I put it on." You know, I said, "Look, here you'll learn the real basis of this culture. It's not just mythology. It's not just, you know, a feel-good thing. It's a way of life, but it's not a way of normal life. It's a way of eternal life, and it'll be for your benefit. And you'll be able to teach your son that we don't come from monkeys, that we come from Krishna." And say, see, I had her son with her, you know, and I said, "You know, we don't you want to teach your son that we don't come from monkeys? Otherwise, if you tell him we come from monkeys, he'll end up becoming a monkey. You know, he'll end up acting like a monkey in his life, right?" What do monkeys do? They run around naked and they destroy things. That's what they do. You let a monkey loose in your house, it'll destroy everything. You know. So I said, "You don't want your son to become a monkey, do you?" You know. So then I put a few doubts in her mind, and she kept quiet after that. But you see, this is what happens. You know, these are people born in India, born in the land of Dharma, and they have embraced adharma. And they say, "I believe in this thing." They don't even understand what they're saying. "You believe you come from a monkey? Let me take you to the zoo and show you what a monkey is, and then you tell me you're related to that thing." You know, it is ridiculous. Anyway, it's good at least that people come to the temple. That way they can get their brain refurbished. Nowadays, also, the devotees see Krishna in Vraja in their hearts, saturated with devotion, although they do not see him with their eyes. The eye of devotion is nothing but the eye of the pure, unalloyed spiritual self of the jiva. The form of Krishna is visible to that eye in proportion to its purification by the practice of devotion. The form of Krishna is visible to that eye in proportion to its purification by the practice of devotion. When the devotion of the neophyte reaches the stage of bhava bhakti, the pure eye of that devotee is tinged with the salve of love by the grace of Krishna, which enables him to see Krishna face to face. The phrase, "in their hearts," means Krishna is visible in proportion as their hearts are purified by the practice of devotion. Ye yatamam papadyante, tam stataiva bhajamyaham, mamavart manavartante. Manusya Partha Sarvasa. This is basically a paraphrase of the 4th chapter, verse number 11 in Bhagavad Gita. "As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha." So there is reciprocation. To the degree we surrender to Krishna, that much he shows us. So if we surrender 1% to Krishna, he only shows us 1%. If we surrender 50%, he shows us 50% of himself. If we surrender 100%, he shows us 100%. If you surrender 0%, he shows you what? 0. You see nothing. You just see monkeys. That's all. You see. So, we need to be in an environment where surrender to Krishna is the culture. Culture is what people do. So if your culture is watching television, going on the internet, talking nonsense on Twitter and Facebook, that's your culture. And if your culture is worshiping Krishna in your home with your children, your husband, and everybody, grandmother, granddaddy, no Bollywood movies, no... remember yesterday I was talking about this nonsense... huh? Well, no, Kali Pili. Yeah, the Kali Pili, right? Well, Radhika Gopinath knows what I was talking about. In fact, I'm going to get him to write it down. It was a famous nonsensical phrase that went on the internet, and every Hindu started repeating it. It is complete nonsense, but it became famous for a short period of time. You know. Huh? Yeah. So, if you read this purport to 4:11, it's very enlightening because it explains how we can actually see Krishna, but it's through the process of surrendering to Him through Bhakti Yoga. And that's what's being explained here by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but in a higher language. You develop the eye of devotion as opposed to the raw vision that we have now. When the devotion of the neophyte reaches the stage of Bhava Bhakti. Now, how do you reach the stage of Bhava Bhakti? Ado Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangata Bhajana Kriya Tato Narta Nivrati Syat Tato Nishta Ruchis Tata Atashaktis Tato Bhavas Tata Premya Byadudanshati Sadakam Ayam Premna Pradur Bhave Bhavet Krama. So this is explained by Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and he says, in the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. This will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated. He's talking about devotees. What does it mean spiritually elevated? They are practicing the Vedic Sanatana Dharma culture. They might not be perfect, but they're practicing the culture. What does the culture mean? What you eat, what you look for in entertainment, the way you speak, the way you dress, and all these things. It's all part of culture, right? So the culture of the temple is Vedic Dharma or Sanatana Dharma, right? The center of attention is not the television. The center of attention is Radha and Krishna. In the kitchen, we don't cook birds and pigs and things like that. We cook vegetables and fruits and things and offer them to Krishna. So it's a culture that includes food, dress, speech, music, poetry, philosophy, everything you can, that's called culture, right? So this brings one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated. So if the desire for self-realization awakens in your heart, and usually it's because of some shock, somebody you love died, or there's a flood that takes your house away and everything in it, or you lose your job, and you come to the temple and say, Prabhu, say a prayer for me, please say a prayer. Why? I just lost my job, I want to find another job. Okay, well, say Hare Krishna. Well, no, do a puja. Puja doesn't help. You have to chant Hare Krishna. But what will that do? I said, well, it might help you find a job. Okay, I'll chant Hare Krishna. Of course, that kind of chanting is for a material purpose, but at least they're going to chant, right? So you see, whenever there's some setback to one's sense gratification, they come to the temple. Just like right after 9/11, you won't believe how many people came to the temple. For 3 weeks, the temple was packed. It was like standing room only, right? But then when they saw George Bush was going to attack the Taliban in Afghanistan, then the 4th week, fewer people came. 5th week, fewer. Then it came back to normal again. Hardly anybody coming, right? When they felt as if the danger is past, there won't be another attack, and then it didn't come. But right after 9/11, place was packed. Everybody didn't know what's going to happen. Right? You see. So whenever there is some kind of, or as there's a Hindi poem that says, while crossing the river, he prayed, "Hey Bhagavan, hey, help." But when they got on the other side of the river, they said, "Hari Bol, now we're going to enjoy again." Yeah. So the next stage, one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master. So by associating with devotees, then one realizes the importance of guru. Tat vidi paripatena paripastena sevaya upadeksyami te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshanaha. Tad vigyanartam samitpani evabhikachet. So one realizes that one must have diksha done or initiation by a bona fide guru. And gurus to advance. And under the instruction of the guru and gurus, the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service. By execution of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, one becomes free from all material attachment, attains steadiness and self-realization, and acquires a taste for hearing about the absolute personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. So those are the three things that happen when one accepts bona fide guru and gurus. First of all, anartha nivriti, all the bad habits gradually stop. Bad habits are anything that takes your attention away from Krishna. That's a bad habit. People say, well, listening to Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, how is that bad? Well, what are you thinking about when you're listening to Beethoven's Fifth Symphony? You're not thinking of Krishna, you're thinking of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Therefore it's bad. If it would help you think of Krishna, then there might be some excuse that's helpful. But I never met anyone listening to Beethoven's Fifth Symphony and they're thinking of Krishna. They're thinking about, when's the next time I'm going to meet my lover and I'll play Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. That's what they're thinking, So, and then one develops, one becomes free of material attachments, attains steadiness and self-realization. In other words, steadiness and self-realization means they follow the regulative principles of spiritual life: no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication, and regularly attending the classes on Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, regularly chanting minimum 16 rounds a day of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, regularly, or on every day eating only Mahaprasadam, what has been offered to the Lord with love and devotion and offered back as His mercy, His prasad, and coming to the temple and in the association of devotees performing seva, service, unselfish acts of devotion in which you share with others the mercy of the Lord in form of prasad and other things. So at that point, one attains steadiness and self-realization, and one acquires a taste for hearing about the absolute personality of Godhead, Krishna. Most people say, "Oh, Prabhu, whenever I hear the class, I get really tired." And it is like a good sleeping pill, I have to admit, because every time I hear the class, I go to sleep. Well, then you don't have to take any sleeping pills. Just come to the class. Right. And they say, well, yeah, but you also have kirtan, and I hear the kirtan, it gives me a headache. Well, yeah, when you're sick, any external stimulation gives you pain, but when you're healthy, it doesn't. So therefore, keep listening, and you'll get healthy. You'll get cured of the sickness. So then it says, the taste leads one further forward to attachment for Krishna and Krishna consciousness. So first there's ruchi, and then there's tasaktis, real attachment. Just like, people are hearing, Obama did this. Obama's going to give you a cell phone. Obama's going to give you health care. Obama's going to give you chicken and turkey on Thanksgiving. Obama's going to give you a new washing machine. Obama's going to do this. Obama's going to do that. In the end, they say, I love Obama. They don't really love Obama. They love all the things Obama is giving them, right? But because the name Obama goes, Obamacare, Obama cell phone, Obama turkey, Obama this, Obama marijuana. Okay, I love Obama because I love marijuana, turkey, washing machine, cell phone, Medicare, Medicaid. So you see, you keep hearing about someone, end up loving him. Just like Mr. Stump for Trump. He's an expert at seizing or usurping the prime time publicity in the media by saying all these things. No more Muslims coming into the country. Now, everyone's like, they don't want to say it out loud, but in their heart, they say, thank God he's saying that. In their heart, they say, thank God he's saying that. I hope he sticks to it. And he said, I'm going to build a wall on the southern border of the United States. No more Tex-Mexes coming in there. No one wants to say hooray, but in their heart they say, thank God he's saying I'm going to vote for him, but I'm not going to tell anyone. You see, well, because he's saying all the right things. He's feeding the fear of the people. The people are actually afraid of these things. They know what it means. You get so many illegal, how hard was it for you to get your green card and then your citizenship? How many years did it take?
Green card, 6.5 years.
6.5 years. And citizenship?
5.
5. So 11.5 years. But nowadays, you just get a ticket from Bombay to Mexico City. You take a bus to the Rio Grande River. And you walk across. Immediately, you get Obamacare. You get food stamps. You get your college education paid for. And you get housing, free housing. And you don't have to wait 11.5 years. You just have to pay for the ticket to go to Mexico City and the bus ticket to come up to the Rio Grande River. And the Rio Grande River is a nice river. It's real shallow. You can walk across it. You don't have to take a boat. You see what's happening. And the people know this. They say, look, we like helping people, but I just lost my job because some Mexican guy is doing it for $5 an hour. So in the end, people say, no way, I'm going to vote for this guy, even though whatever he's saying is considered outrageous, but actually he's saying the right thing. He needs to protect the country, right? So everybody's out looking out for their own self-interest, right? And the politicians that are really smart, they realize, just keep promising people whatever they want, and they'll vote for you. Okay, so that's enough politics. The taste leads one further forward to attachment for Krishna consciousness, which is matured in bhava, or the preliminary stage of transcendental love of God. Real love for God is called prema, the highest professional stage of life. In the prema stage, there's constant engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So by the slow process of devotional service, under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, one can attain the highest stage, being freed from all material attachment, from the fearfulness of one's individual spiritual personality, and from the frustrations that result in void philosophy. Then one can ultimately attain to the abode of the Supreme Lord. So this is 4th chapter, verse number 10. It explains the process of gradual elevation through Krishna consciousness. So this is what he's saying. This is a short purport, but the short purport, he's making little references here and there. Each one of his references is a big subject that you'd have to spend 1 month or 1 year trying to understand, right? So that's why these what he's writing is like sutras. They're short little statements, but each statement has huge meaning to it. That could take you even a lifetime to understand. Just this process, going from Shraddha to Sadhu Sangha, to Bhajana Kriya, to Anartha Nivriti, to Ruchi, to Nistha, to Ruchi, to Atashakti, to Bhava, and to Prema. It could take you a lifetime to do and to understand, even though it's only one paragraph. But every word has a huge meaning. So Krishna is visible in proportion as their hearts are purified by the practice of devotion. Now, this is simple English. You understand what it means. But to really understand what it means, you'd have to practice it. You'd have to actually surrender to Krishna. That could take a whole lifetime. And a lot of failure on the way. But success is guaranteed to the strict practitioner. So you follow the process properly with the help of devotees and gurus, and success is guaranteed. The sum and substance of this sloka is that the form of Krishna, who is Shamasundara, Natavara. So usually we think Natavara means Lord Shiva, but actually Lord Krishna is Natavara, the best dancer. Muralidhara, the holder of the flute. Even Lord Shiva doesn't hold the flute. He has a trishul. And what do you call the drum? The damru? Yeah, the damru and the trishul. But Krishna has the bamsi. See? And tribhanga, meaning he has a threefold form. It has three folds. It's like this, right? And is not a mental concoction, but is transcendental and is visible with the eye of the soul of the devotee under trance. So that explains more in depth how we can see Krishna in our heart always. So here it says, my dear Lord, when will my eyes be beautified by filling with tears that constantly glide down as I chant your holy name? So these are not hot tears, they're cold tears. Hot tears are because of crying for something that you're attached to, that you lose. Cold tears are tears of pure love for Krishna. Gliding down as I chant your holy name. When will my voice falter and all the hairs of my body stand erect in the transcendental happiness as I chant your holy name? So the key to open the door that's locked into your heart is this chanting. Just like if you're sleeping and the thief walks into your house, you can't see him because your eyes are closed. You can't smell him because you're not experiencing the sense of smell. You can't touch him because you're sleeping and he's standing in the distance. You can't taste him because obviously you can't taste him. But if he makes some noise, even though you're sleeping, you can hear him. So hearing is the most sensitive of all the senses. Even a sleeping man or woman can wake up if the thief makes some noise. Let's say he steps on your cat's tail. You say, oh, what's going on? I heard my cat. I love my cat. My cat was screaming. What happened? Oh, there's the thief. So hearing is the most sensitive of all the senses. So therefore, if you chant Hare Krishna and you hear Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, you can wake up. Your soul can wake up. You say, yes, this is what I want. This is the real nourishment. I don't want hamburgers and pig's feet and cow's tongue and things like that. I want Krishna Katha, Hari Katha. That's what I want. You see? It's just like feeding a baby or trying to entertain a baby with things that it doesn't want. It doesn't want you going like this. It doesn't want that, But when the mother comes and the mother lifts the baby in her arms and maybe gives her breast to the baby, then the baby says, this is what I wanted. All those other people are idiots. They don't know what I wanted. This is what I wanted. I want to have some warm milk, and I want my mother holding me like this and loving me. So the soul is like that. The soul is being starved right now. We're not giving the soul. We're feeding the body, but we're not feeding the soul. The soul is like Atmaha. It's almost dead. It's not really, let's say, alive and enthusiastic. Whereas yesterday we saw the souls alive and enthusiastic on Sankirtan, didn't we? Everyone was chanting and dancing. And even the people that smoke marijuana and drink wine every day, they started, say, hey, there's a party going on here. They started dancing like this, and they're saying, Hare Krishna, yeah. Huh? A lot of people, yeah. So more people should come on Sankirtan. If you want to make other people happy, the way you make other people happy is by you being happy, right? No. So here we want the soul to wake up. Without love of Godhead, my life is useless. Therefore I pray that you accept me as your servant and give me the salary of ecstatic love of God. This is poetry. Premadana vira vyarta daridra jivana dasa kari vetana more deha premadana. Deha premadana, you give me love of God. You see, without love of God, my life is useless. Therefore I pray that you accept me as your servant and give me the salary of ecstatic love of God. Now, if you work for an employer and your salary was love of God, would you work for that person? Of course.
Which verse is this?
This is Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya Lila, chapter 20, verse number 37. Yeah. More deha premadana. You give me this love of God. Separation from Krishna awoke various mellows of distress, lamentation, and humility. Thus Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke like a crazy man. Yeah, sometimes, like I know this is a true story. There was this one devotee. He was a very good devotee. He was always talking about Prabhupada, and he was a little bit older person, but he was a very good devotee. Then he fell in love with this young girl. He fell in love with a young girl, right? And pretty soon he was in distress. One day we saw him, he was saying, I don't know, she's going to accept me or not, I really don't know, and it's really troubling me. And he wasn't talking anymore about Prabhupada. He wasn't talking at all about Prabhupada, he's just talking about this girl, and saying, I don't know, because he was a little older and she was pretty young, and his mind was completely absorbed in the girl. Well, that's a perverted reflection of the real thing. Here, it's saying, separation from Krishna awoke various mellows of distress, lamentation, and humility. So in the material world, those so-called mellows are actually disgusting. When you see an old man overwhelmed with love for a young girl and he's in distress because he doesn't know she's going to requite his love or accept him. Right? But this is different. The same thing that's disgusting here, but in the spiritual world, it's the most exalted thing. Here, Lord Chaitanya is these feelings of separation, distress, lamentation, and humility are arising in his heart because of his separation and love for Krishna. Therefore, love in separation is stronger than love in proximity. It's much stronger if there's genuine love. Right? Just like a mother. If you take a child away from a mother, most mothers would be devastated. Right? Of course, there are some mothers nowadays, oh, good, But most mothers, the ones that are sane and genuine, they would be devastated if you take the child away from them. Right? So, in the same way, and every day, instead of thinking about what they're going to eat, where they're going to go out, they'd be thinking about the child. What's the child doing? I hope they're taking good care of the child. I miss the child so much. There's normal feelings of love in separation. So the love in separation is stronger than love in proximity. And this is what Lord Chaitanya is expressing here, because this is the mood of Radharani. Of course, theoretically, Krishna left Vrindavan, right? When Akrura took him to Mathura, and then later on he ended up in Dwarka. So the gopis and the residents of Vrindavan were heartbroken. In fact, there's the scene when Akrura is taking Krishna out of Vrindavan. The gopis are trying to fall under the wheels of the cart to stop it, because they were brokenhearted. And then there's long descriptions of the feelings of the gopis in separation from the Lord. This is when Uddhava comes to Vrindavan. Krishna sent them to Vrindavan to sort of mitigate or assuage the distress of the gopis and Radharani, who were feeling acutely Krishna's absence from Vrindavan. Actually, Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, but that's another subject. So let's see. Let's see where that is. Uddhava visits. Then we can read some of this. Okay, so you find in the Krishna book, Uddhava leaves. Uddhava is sent to Vrindavan by Krishna. Okay. My dear Lord Govinda, because of separation from you, I consider even a moment a great millennium. Tears flow from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I see the entire world as void. Well, this is a little bit different translation of this verse. Here it says, Yugaitam Nimesena Chakshasa Parvasaitam Sunyaitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Vinamename. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. So this shows the relativity of time. When you are feeling the absence of someone you love, time seems to go by very slowly. But when you're with the people that you love, time seems to go by too fast, because all of a sudden it's time for them to leave. And you say, how? They went by so fast. Right? So you see the relativity of time. It depends on the feelings that you have in your heart. And here, look, because of such acute love that Lord Chaitanya is feeling for Radha and Krishna, and he's actually simply experiencing the love of Radharani for Krishna, he's experiencing every moment as a millennium. A millennium means 1,000 years. Here it says, in this official translation, it's 12 years or more, but here, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, it says, it is, I consider even a moment a great millennium. Tears flow from my eyes like torrents of rain. So the tears are not flowing down his cheek. They're jumping out of his eyes like rain. And sometimes that happens, where you see a person is so much overwhelmed with emotion, the tears don't actually go down the eyes, they jump out of the eyes. And I see the entire world as void. In other words, there's nothing in this world that interests him, because of his total immersion in love for Krishna. In my agitation, a day never ends, for every moment seems like a millennium. Again, like 1,000 years. Pouring incessant tears, my eyes are like clouds in the rainy season. This is like the rainy season, or the monsoon, right? Monsoon, you see how the rain is coming out. Every square centimeter is full of rain, right? So that's the way the tears are coming out of his eyes. The three worlds have become void because of separation from Govinda. I feel as if I were burning alive in a slow fire. In other words, a fast fire, you burn quickly. A slow fire, you burn slowly. It's even worse. The pain is even more excruciating. So, the idea that the whole world has become void means there's nothing in this world that interests him, because he's totally focused on love of Krishna. So, this is necessary to get out of the material world and the cycle of birth and death. There's a description of how yogis can leave the material world. they have to go through the whole space, the 4 billion miles of the diameter of the universe, till they come to the covering of the universe. Then there's 7 coverings, each one 10 times bigger than the other. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, right? So, why are there's these huge, those coverings are bigger than the universe. Why? Well, where do you think all the material comes from that's in the universe? Just like, where do you think all the materials come from for building your house? Well, you see it. You see it at Home Depot or Lowe's. You go in the back and you see a huge open space filled with bricks and all kinds of cinder blocks, and then wood and other things. And then inside there's huge aisles full of electricity, wires and tubing and this and that. And then there's pipes and all that. So that's what those 7 layers of the universe are. It's the raw material with which everything is made from in the universe. And you have to go through it. But at every stage, when you go through the earth, at the last stage of the earth, there are things that are extremely enticing. Things that you are attracted to during your life. That could be strawberry shortcake. That could be ice cream. And imagine what other things it could be, right? It goes all the way up to naked people standing there, extremely beautiful naked people standing there. And if you even slightly look at one of those things, you stay in the material world. You can't come out. There's a description of this. So, if you are like Lord Chaitanya, out of extreme love for the Lord, the 3 worlds have become void because of separation from Govinda. I feel as if we're burning alive in a slow fire. He has no interest at all in anything in the material world. No proclivity at all for sense gratification. Only desire is Krishna. Therefore, he doesn't look like this or like that as he's going out in the material world. He's just focused on Krishna. Okay? So how do you do that? That's called real meditation. That's called samadhi. Fixed on the Lord. And one has to be like that in order to leave the material world. There can't be any regrets. Just like there's a description of a little child that's being potty trained. And the first day, they're on the potty, and if you don't potty train them and you don't put diapers on them, you'll see children will play with their own stool. Yes. They'll play with it. They don't think it's disgusting. Right? And they don't mind. So they have to be trained to think, I shouldn't touch this. Right? But when people are attached, just like the child may be attached, you say, well, that's part of my body. Now it's outside. But what's the difference? When it was inside, it was part of me, and it's outside, it's still part of it's me. Right? So people are very attached. When they pull the lever on the toilet, they have a tang of separation as they see their stool going down into the toilet. Don't think it's a joke. People are attached to houses, to cars, to jewelry, to sacks and pocketbooks and old newspapers, and it could be anything. They're attached. It's the same as an attachment to your own stool. Until you have the same abhorrence for other things that you have for your own stool, you'll remain in the material world. Yeah. Now, you can be attached to using things in Krishna's service, so that type of attachment is not bad. It's actually positive. In other words, you don't see anything as belonging to you. You see everything belonging to Krishna. So it belongs to him. So the microphone belongs to him. So I shouldn't take the microphone and do some karaoke nonsense song. But if I can sing a bhajan, then and use the microphone, that's okay. The microphone's not bad. If I use the same microphone and start singing some karaoke song, some nonsense song, that's not good. So we can be attached to using everything in Krishna's service, then it's not an impediment. But if you're attached to using things for sense gratification, that's like being attached to your own stool and feeling pangs of separation as it goes down the toilet, you know. So Lord Krishna has become indifferent to me just to test my love, and my friends say better to disregard him. While Srimati Radharani was thinking in this way, the characteristics of natural love became manifest because of her pure heart. Yeah, she doesn't want anything else in this world but Krishna. Some people are saying, well, just forget about him. Just like you go to the marriage counselor and you say, well, my husband did this and my husband did that. In the end, the marriage counselor said, I think you're ready for your divorce. That's a marriage counselor, right? That's not what a Krishna conscious person would say. They'd say, well, you better start chanting Hare Krishna so you can tolerate these things. If there's violence, then there should be some organized separation until your husband behaves himself and corrects himself. But in the meantime, Vedas allow separation until people come back to their senses. But the marriage counsel said, well, I think you should get divorced because, your husband is no good. Well, how do you know he's no good? She never interviewed the husband. Maybe the husband is good. Maybe the wife was no good. You see? So you can't trust these people. Their training is different. They're not trained in Krishna consciousness. They're trained in Freudian psychology. Huh? So, who's the authority, Freud or Krishna? Yeah, so it's better to take Krishna's advice rather than Freud's advice. If you take Freud's advice, you'll end up being fried. Yeah? The ecstatic symptoms of envy, great eagerness, humility, and supplication all became manifest at once in Lord Chaitanya. In that mood, the mind of Srimati Radharani was agitated, and therefore she spoke a verse of advanced devotion to her gopi friends. Now this is the purport to Yugayitam Nime Sena Chaksusa Pavritayitam, the next to the last verse of the Siksastakam. This is the purport given by Krishna's Kaviraj. In other words, there's a deep meaning to these verses. These last two verses are the pinnacle of the experience of Krishna consciousness. And
2057?
45, 46, 47. All these verses now are all about the last two verses. In that mood, the mind of Srimati Radharani was agitated, and therefore she spoke a verse of advanced devotion to her gopi friends. Se bhave Prabhu se sloka ucharila, sloka ucharite tadrupa apane haila. In the same spirit of ecstasy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited that verse. And as soon as he did so, he felt like Srimati Radharani. So this last verse is a verse of advanced devotion that Srimati Radharani herself spoke to the gopis in her state of extreme love and separation from Krishna. And now Lord Chaitanya is speaking the same thing to his devotees. And it's the last verse of the Siksastakam. Aslisyava padaratam pinastamam adarsananam marmahato karotuva yata tatava vidadatu lampato mat prananatas tu saeva naparaha. Let Krishna tightly embrace this maidservant who has fallen at his lotus feet, or let him trample me or break my heart by never being visible to me. He is a debauchee, after all, and can do whatever he likes, but still he alone and no one else is the worshipable Lord of my heart. I am the maidservant at the lotus feet of Krishna. He is the embodiment of transcendental happiness and mellows. If he likes, he can tightly embrace me and make me feel oneness with him. Or, by not giving me his audience, he may corrode my mind and body. Nevertheless, it is he who is the Lord of my life. So this, what she's expressing here is called unconditional love. The love in this world is like this. You scratchy my backy, I scratchy your backy. Right? But love in the spiritual world is unconditional. You scratchy my backy or you don't scratchy my backy. Still I scratchy your backy. Right? Now, who is going to do that today? Let's say there's a husband that does nothing for his wife. No washing machine, no credit card, no car, no helping with the dishes, nothing. Does absolutely nothing. Doesn't even bring money home. How long do you think she would live with him? What do you think? If you did nothing for your wife, how long would she live with you? No, it'd be immediate. The papers would be there. The law firm of Burt and Burt, announcing the imminent divorce. Yeah, but here Radharani is saying, even if he does not, even if he tramples on me, even if he ignores me and goes far away, even if he goes with some other woman, still he's my Lord unconditionally. And that's called real love. Real love is defined earlier in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, right in the beginning, where it says, love and lust have different characteristics, just like iron and gold. The object of lust is only the enjoyment of one's own senses, but love caters to the enjoyment of Lord Krishna, and thus it is very powerful. The gopis do not care for their own pleasures or pains. All their physical and mental activities are directed toward offering enjoyment to Krishna. The gopis have no inclination for their own enjoyment, and yet their joy increases. That is indeed a contradiction. For this contradiction, I see only one solution. The joy of the gopis lies in the joy of their beloved Krishna. When Lord Krishna sees the gopis, his joy increases, and his unparalleled sweetness increases also. The gopis think, Krishna has obtained so much pleasure by seeing me. That thought increases the fullness and beauty of their faces and bodies. The beauty of Lord Krishna increases at the sight of the beauty of the gopis, and the more the gopis see Lord Krishna's beauty, the more their beauty increases. In this way, a competition takes place between them, in which no one actually acknowledges defeat. Krishna, however, derives pleasure from the beauty and good qualities of the gopis, and when the gopis see his pleasure, the joy of the gopis increases. Therefore, we find that the joy of the gopis nourishes the joy of Lord Krishna. For that reason, the fault of lust is not present in their love. Wherever there is unselfish love, that is its style. The reservoir of love derives pleasure when the lovable object is pleased. When the pleasure of love interferes with the service of Lord Krishna, the devotee becomes angry towards such ecstasy. Sri Daruka, the chariot driver of Krishna, did not relish his ecstatic feelings of love, for they caused his limbs to become stunned and thus obstructed his service of fanning Lord Krishna. The lotus-eyed Radharani powerfully condemned the ecstatic love that caused a flow of tears that hindered her eyesight of Govinda. Furthermore, pure devotees never forsake the loving service of Lord Krishna to aspire for their own personal pleasure through the 5 kinds of liberation. Lord Chaitanya appeared with the sentiment of Radha. He preached the Dharma of this age, the chanting of the holy name, and pure love of God. In the mood of Srimati Radharani, he also fulfilled his own desires. This is the principal reason for his appearance. What was his desire? his desire as Krishna was to, as we said, the three things: relish the position of Radharani, understand the qualities in him that caused her to have ecstatic feelings of love for him, and actually experience ecstatic love for him. Okay, there's one other thing I wanted to find. Okay, I'm not finding what I'm looking for, but it says, if there's a reason for two people to separate, and they do not separate, it's the sign of real love. If there's a reason for two people to separate, and they do not separate, that is the sign of real love. Yeah. Just like, there are stories like that, even in the material world. So Radharani says, I have offered this body to Lord Krishna. He is its owner, and it brings him enjoyment. Krishna finds joy in seeing and touching this body. It is for this reason that I cleanse and decorate the body. It's not for herself to feel good. She does it only because Krishna enjoys. O Arjuna, there are no greater receptacles of deep love for me than the gopis, who cleanse and decorate their bodies because they consider them mine. So Krishna is explaining this. There's another wonderful feature of the emotion of the gopis. Its power is beyond the comprehension of the intelligence. When the gopis see Lord Krishna, they derive unbounded bliss, although they have no desire for such pleasure. The gopis taste the pleasure 10 million times greater than the pleasure Lord Krishna derives from seeing them. The gopis have no inclination for their own enjoyment, and yet their joy increases. That is indeed a contradiction. For this contradiction, I see only one solution. The joy of the gopis lies in the joy of their beloved Krishna. So, okay, so that's just to give you an idea of what is real love. Real love means the gopis have no desire for Krishna to return his love to them, because they're only interested in pleasing him. Therefore, there's no lust involved in their relationship. Even though someone might think that it's a lusty relationship, because they're projecting their own concept of love on the Rasa Lila of Radha and Krishna and the gopis. So it's just like you see your child with the eyes of love and protection. But the same child being observed by a child molester, the child molester doesn't see with the eyes of love and devotion, he sees with the eyes of exploitation and lust. Two people looking at the same thing. So when uneducated people who have not gone through the process of purification hear about Krishna and the gopis, they think it's like, me and the girls in a nightclub. Right? But when the devotees hear about it, they see something completely different. Okay. So now, my dear friend, just hear the decision of my mind. Krishna is the Lord of my life in all conditions, whether he shows me affection or kills me by giving me unhappiness. Sometimes Krishna gives up the company of other gopis and becomes controlled, mind and body, by me. Thus he manifests my good fortune and gives others distress by performing his loving affairs with me. Or, since after all he is very cunning, an obstinate debauchee with a propensity to cheat, he takes to the company of other women. He then indulges in loving affairs with them in front of me to give me distress to my mind. Nevertheless, he is still the Lord of my life. I do not mind my personal distress. I only wish for the happiness of Krishna, for his happiness is the goal of my life. However, if he feels great happiness in giving me distress, that distress is the best of my happiness. Would you ever say that? No. We've never said anything like that. No, but we don't have love of Krishna, so we don't know what real love is. You know? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that a devotee does not care about his own happiness and distress. He is simply interested in seeing that Krishna is happy, and for that purpose he engages in various activities. A pure devotee has no way of sensing happiness except by seeing that Krishna is happy in every respect. If Krishna becomes happy by giving him distress, such a devotee accepts the unhappiness as the greatest of all happiness. Those who are materialistic, however, who are very proud of material wealth and have no spiritual knowledge, like the Prakrita Sahajias, regard their own happiness as the aim of life. Some of them aspire to enjoy themselves by sharing the happiness of Krishna. This is the mentality of fruitive workers who want to enjoy sense gratification by making a show of service to Krishna. Now we see this, like for example, people will go to a concert to hear ghazals. Right? Now, what is the subject of a ghazal? It's a lamentation. You know, that's why when they sing, you can hear their voice choke a little bit with emotion, right? And other people start crying when they hear it, and they're also choked with emotion. You know, but what's the subject, though? Oh, I love someone so much, and they broke my heart, and they've left me, and now I'm so lonely. And, so they have the same thing in America. It's called the blues. You know, the blues is very famous here. You know, but the ghazals are more deeply emotional. You know, and you have great poets that have written. You know, like what's his name, Kabir. You know, he's written these very emotional ghazals, and then you have great singers that sing them, but it's all nonsense. It's all about me and my distress, and why did she leave me, or why did he leave me? You know, why did he go to this other woman and he left me alone, although I was faithful to him? You know, these subjects, they are emotional, but emotion for lust, not emotion for pure love. And you see something different here. It's completely different. But if you don't know this, when you'll project the same mundane feeling that you get when you hear a ghazal onto this. Right? Now the ghazal is not something that is just in India. You go through the whole Middle East, whether it's Iran or Turkey or the Arab countries, you'll see they have exactly the same thing. And the subject of the ghazal is always sad, very sad, heartbreaking. But heartbreaking in a material sense, not in a spiritual sense. So here we're seeing the pure love of Radharani for Krishna. It has nothing to do with this mundane experience. If Krishna is attracted by the beauty of some other woman and wants to enjoy with her but is unhappy because he cannot get her, I fall down at her feet, catch her hand, and bring her to Krishna to engage for his happiness. When a beloved gopi shows symptoms of anger toward Krishna, Krishna is very satisfied. Indeed, he is extremely pleased when chastised by such a gopi. She shows her pride suitably, and Krishna enjoys that attitude. Then she gives up her pride with a little endeavor. So this is called, well, it's an Arabic word, but I think you have the same word in Hindi. It's called naz. Is that a word in Hindi? Naz. What does it mean? Yeah, exactly. So, a girl becomes proud because she rejects someone. So I'm not interested in you. You know? You see. So that Naz, in the spiritual world, is actually pleasing to Krishna. But then, but see, these are all Arabic and Turkish words. They're not Hindi words, right?
That's how they have come to the Indian movies.
Yeah, that's how they came to the Indian movies, right? They originally came from India, and then they came back again through the Muslims, right? But it was originally, everything is coming from the Vedas, but then it became perverted by the Middle Eastern people, and then it came, or the Afghans, the Turkish people, and then it came back to India in its perverted form. So now you have, a nice bottle of Johnny Walker here. People are drinking and they're listening to Ghazal and they're crying and they say, "Oh, this is so beautiful, I love that, and they're just.
All the songwriters for Indian movies, they're all Muslims.
Yeah, they're all Muslims, of course. Yeah.
All
And the people crying are all Hindus. Yeah, see what's happened. They don't realize it comes originally, but in a pure form. The pure form is here. The contaminated form, it came from the Muslims. And the Hindus are accepting the contaminated form, and now they're not interested in the real form. You see, that's the tragedy. Okay, so should we stop or keep going? We haven't got to the best part yet. This is a very deep subject. Of course, we can see the parody of it on the material level and laugh about it. It is ridiculous on the material level, but on the spiritual level, it's very serious. It evokes transcendental feelings, and it's a private subject. It's something the Lord Chaitanya only discussed with his most intimate devotees. He didn't discuss it openly in public. Right? Because when you discuss the subject openly in public, if people are contaminated, they take it in the wrong way. They take it in the way of the Bollywood movies. But when you go deeply into the subject, it captures your mind. Your mind can't go away from it once you begin to taste it. And this is what Lord Chaitanya did for 12 years, the last 12 years of his transcendental pastimes. He was tasting these poetic expressions, poems written by Jayadev Goswami, Vidyapati, and other great Vaishnava poets who expressed the feelings of Radharani, and then of course Rupa Goswami also, even in a more significant way, expressed these deep sentiments of love of Radharani for Krishna. And then Lord Chaitanya was tasting. To be able to taste poetry, you have to be highly evolved. They have people, even today, poetry is not something that's wildly popular. It was previously, like before the internet age and television and radio. People would taste poetry. They would taste the poetry of Coleridge, and they would taste the poetry of Henry Wadsworth and Longfellow, and people like this. They were great poets. So they taste the poetry of Shakespeare. But Shakespeare, Wadsworth, Coleridge, all these people, Dante, they are like mosquitoes compared to Vyasadeva. And Vyasadeva is unbelievable, but when you go to Jayadev Goswami, you're getting into very intimate expressions of love and devotion of Radharani for Krishna, and that now you're going up to the pinnacle. And this is what Lord Chaitanya was tasting. And to be able to taste, I don't know if you understand what I mean by tasting poetry. You can stay on one word of a poem for months, for a year, for a whole lifetime, because the significance of that word is so great in the context of the poem that it touches your heart and you can't get your mind off of it. Right? So this is what we're talking about here, and it's not an ordinary thing. You have to be highly evolved to be able to enter into the mysteries of transcendental poetry. So we'll have we'll get one or two examples of it, and then we'll stop. If a gopi, why does a woman continue to live who knows that Krishna's heart is unhappy, but who still shows her deep anger toward him? She is interested in her own happiness. I condemn such a woman to be struck on the head with a thunderbolt, for we simply want the happiness of Krishna. A devotee who is satisfied only with his own sense gratification certainly falls down from the service of Krishna. Being attracted by material happiness, he later joins the Prakrita Sahajas, who are considered to be non-devotees. If a gopi, envious of me, satisfies Krishna, and Krishna desires her, I shall not hesitate to go to her house and become her maidservant, for then my happiness will be awakened. Now the next verse brings up a story, a very great story that not so many people know, of Shilavati. The wife of a Brahmana suffering from leprosy manifested herself as the topmost of all chaste women by serving a prostitute to satisfy her husband. She thus stopped the movement of the sun, brought her dead husband back to life, and satisfied the three principal demigods, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara. Now this story shows the power of a chaste woman. And Shilavati was married, so you can say, well, how was she chaste? She was chaste in her faithfulness to her husband, who was a rogue. Her husband had leprosy. So she still was taking care of him, although he had leprosy. And his limbs had become, let's say, completely incapacitated. You know, if you have leprosy, gradually your hand falls off. Then your arm falls off. Then you just end up having a stump here. Then your nose falls off, and your legs fall off. So, you know, you see these little, these people on skateboards in India who are lepers, right? They go like, their arms are stumps. They go like this to push themselves, and they're begging, right? You see in Calcutta, maybe in Delhi, I don't know if they have them in Delhi also, yeah. Definitely see in Calcutta a lot. So, the lady, this is explained in the Aditya Purana and the Markandeya Purana and Padma Purana. It tells about a Brahmana who was suffering from leprosy, but had a very chaste and faithful wife. One day, his wife was carrying him in a basket. Now, his wife did everything. She went to work. She'd bring the money home. She'd cook for her husband. She'd clean him. She'd bathe him. She'd clothe him. She'd feed him. She cleaned up his stool and urine. Everything she did for him. And one day they're coming home, and there's the house of a lady of ill repute, and there was water trickling out of the house. So when they're walking past the house, the wife, carrying her husband in a basket, makes a long diversion to avoid stepping in that water. And as they keep going on the road, the husband says, why did you do that? Why didn't you just walk across it or step in it and walk across it? Because there was just a little trickle of water. And she said, no, I won't touch that water, because it's the home of a lady of ill repute, and I won't even touch the water coming from her house. So after that, the husband remained quiet, didn't say a word. So they get home, and then the lady feeds her husband. He's not saying a word, and it's a little bit strange. So after some time, she realizes it must be something wrong. So she says, how come you're not talking? Why aren't you saying anything? You haven't said anything for 2 hours. Hey, there's nothing. She says, no, there must be something. I know you. This is not normal. Please tell me what it is. So after coaxing him for some time, he finally says, I want to enjoy with that lady. And the wife is shocked. And she said, okay. And he says, okay? You're okay with that? She said, if that's what you want, I will arrange it. Now, she's not a rich lady, right? She's just a maid. So every day, on her way back from work, she stops off at the house of that lady. Outside, she doesn't go in. And she cleans the pathway leading to her house. Then she eventually plants a garden of flowers on the outside wall the house. And the lady in the house, she begins to notice that there's all these improvements on the outside of her house. And she asks her servants, is someone doing this? Are you doing this? They say, no. And she said, who's doing it? They said, well, we don't know exactly who it is. It's some lady. She comes every day and makes these improvements. She said, really? You don't know who she is? She said, no, we don't know who she is. So she says, next time you see her, bring her in. I want to talk to her. So in a couple of days, they bring the lady in, and the lady of the house speaks to her and says, who are you? Why are you doing this? And she said, you excuse me. So I'm even embarrassed asking you, but my husband wants to enjoy with you. So the other lady said, I understand. And she said, you bring your husband. Tomorrow night we'll have a dinner. So she said, okay, thank you. So the next day she carries her husband, she cleans him up really nice and puts some nice clothing, as much as she can, and decorates the basket a little bit, and brings him to the house. They walk in and they sit down together, and there's a big table and it's full of food, really opulent food. But there's two, let's say, parts to the meal. One part is served in golden plates, and the other part is served in black cast iron plates. But then if you look at it carefully, you see they're the same preparations, but there's two different plates. So they're sitting down and talking, and the lady of the house is like a perfect host, and she's very well dressed, and the servants are there, and she's serving the man, with great respect, and his wife is trying to help him eat the food because he doesn't have hands, right? So he needs help to eat the food, and it's really opulent food. And the lady, the host, serves from both plates, the gold plate and the cast iron plate, right? And then there's all kinds of, wine and drinks and everything. It's a huge feast. And when they finish, then they sit down and they're talking. And the lady of the house says to the man, so, did you like the feast? He said, yes. And she says, did you see any difference between the food in the gold plates and the iron plates? He said, no, they were both just as good. And then she says, so do you think there's going to be any difference between me and your wife? He gets shocked. It doesn't say anything. And then she says, you should be ashamed of yourself. You have such a good wife. She's willing to sacrifice everything for her, and you want to insult her like this and force her to bring you to me? And you think there's any difference between me and your wife? And she really gets heavy. And finally, he just keeps quiet, doesn't say anything. And he starts crying. And he says, I understand. I said, please excuse me. And then he asks his wife, please, let's go home. So on the way home, he doesn't speak, she doesn't speak, but it's very dark. It just so happened that there was a great sage who had been impaled by the king. Impaling means they make them sit on the chula. Chula is an erected sword. And when they want to kill someone with maximum suffering, they force them to sit down on the point of the sword, and they push them down until the sword goes through the butt right up to the throat. And they leave them there until they die. And it can take a long time to die. They don't die right away. It's extremely painful. There was a group of robbers who stole something from the king. And they were being pursued by the king's soldiers. And they came to the ashram of this great sage. And they put what they stole from the king near the sage, and they ran away. So when the army or the soldiers of the king came and they saw what was stolen near the sage, they accused him of being the thief, even though he was in meditation. And they took him to prison, and they beat him. And then they brought him before the king the next day. And the king said, "This is the thief?" And they said, "Yes." "How do you know?" I said, "Well, everything that was stolen was with him." And the king said, "Well, how do you know the real robbers didn't put it there?" I said, No, we're sure this is the guy." I said, "Okay." You see, sometimes innocent people get accused of crimes that they never committed, but yet there's circumstantial evidence, that was planted there. So, what happens? The king says, "Okay," he asks his ministers, what should we do? The ministers said, "He should die on the chula for daring to steal from you, Raja." So dying on the chula is the worst way to die. The worst. In fact, if you ever read the history of Dracula, you ever hear of Dracula? You know Dracula, right? Actually, Dracula was a real person. He lived in Romania, in a palace that's near a city called Cluj. I visited that place once. It's very scary. Dracula is not the person that you see in the movies. He was a real person. He was a Romanian king, but he was a very nasty person. And at one time, the Turks invaded Romania and Bulgaria and Romania and different parts of Europe, and they used to rule that area. But sometime in the 19th century, the Turks previously in the 16th century were defeated in Vienna by a Polish king, a Catholic Polish king, and they started retreating gradually. And then in the 19th century, the Romanians revolted, and one of the leaders was Dracula, a Romanian king. And in order to scare the Turks, he defeated an army of Turks, and every one of the soldiers he put on an individual chula and left them like that. And later on, when the Turks came back and saw this, it frightened the heck out of them. There was hundreds and hundreds of soldiers, each one on an erected sword, and the sword goes from the bottom right up here. It comes out here. And the look on the faces of the people was horrible. So that's how Dracula became famous, as like a demon. And even the Turks thought he was a demon, and they're demons already, right? They thought he was the worst demon they ever found. They eventually got him. He was turned over to them by the Romanians themselves, because they were afraid of him also. He was so dangerous. They eventually got him. So the history of Dracula is very interesting. Well, the worst way to kill a person is the chula. So they put the sage on the chula, and he's left there. But he didn't die because he was a perfect yogi. So late at night, Shilavati is carrying her husband, and the stumps of his arm are like this on the side, right? And she didn't see the sage, and his arm hit the sage, and the sage said, "Who is that horrible person that has caused me this excruciating pain?" Because any little movement on the chula causes excruciating pain. It's a sword right through your intestines and your stomach right up to your neck. Any little movement makes you writhe in pain. And he said, "Let that person die tomorrow with the rise of the sun, with the sunrise." So here, after this horrible experience Shilavati goes through, serving the lady of ill repute, bringing her husband there, dinner, and then the castigating, the lady castigating the husband, and now she's bringing him home finally to end that horrible experience. Now another thing happens. He's cursed to die tomorrow morning. And this is too much for her. After all this, to end up trying to protect her husband, now the husband's going to die. So she makes a vow. Tomorrow the sun will not rise. And the next day morning, the sun does not rise. And it causes havoc in the universe. And the Devas, I mean, Surya Narayana, he can't ride his chariot and make the sunrise. The Devas are freaked out. So they go to Lord Vishnu and Svetadvipa, and they pray to him. They say, look, something's going wrong. There's this woman named Shilavati. She has this great mystic power. And she won't let the sun rise because for the sunrise her husband dies. He's received a curse from this great sage. So Lord Vishnu appoints Arundhati, the wife of Indra, to go and speak to Shilavati. Why? Because Arundhati is another chaste woman like Shilavati. So if Vishnu himself goes, he might not be able to convince her. So he sends another woman like her to talk to her. So when Arundhati gets there, she talks to Shilavati like a sister, and she says, look, I promise you, if you let the sun rise, you and your husband will be liberated. If you're really interested in your husband, let the sun rise. Let him die. He'll come back alive, and both of you will be liberated. So because it was Arundhati, Shilavati believed her. She might not have believed Lord Vishnu. Right? So the sun rises, her husband dies, and then now we read what happens. And it says that Aditya Purana, Markandeya Purana, and Padma Purana tell about a Brahmana who was suffering from leprosy but had a very chaste and faithful wife. He desired to enjoy the company of a prostitute, and therefore his wife went to her and became her maidservant, just to draw her attention to his service. When the prostitute agreed to associate with him, the wife brought her the leprotic husband. When that leper, the sinful son of a Brahmana, saw the chastity of his wife, he finally abandoned his sinful intentions. While coming home, however, he touched the body of Markandeya Rishi, who thus cursed him to die at sunrise. Because of her chastity, the woman was very powerful. This is the point. This is something that women don't realize. Madonna and Miley Cyrus and Elizabeth Taylor, all these, they don't know this. They don't know this. They think they get beautiful or they get powerful by engaging in illicit activities. The more illicit activities, the more powerful they get. But it's not true. A woman becomes powerful by chastity. Even if she's married, but remaining chaste to her husband, she develops mystical powers. What did Shilavati do? She didn't do any yoga. She didn't, it doesn't even say she was chanting Hare Krishna. She was simply chaste. Even though her husband was a low-class guy, she remained chaste and faithful to him, and she developed this mystical power. Because of her chastity, the woman was very powerful. Therefore, when she heard about the curse, she vowed to stop the sunrise. Because of her strong determination to serve her husband, the three deities, namely Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, were very happy. And they gave her the benediction that her husband would be cured and brought back to life. This example is given herein to emphasize that a devotee should engage himself exclusively for the satisfaction of Krishna, without personal motives. That will make his life successful. So you see now, he's relating the chastity of a woman to the chastity of a devotee. If you remain faithful to Krishna in spite of all obstacles, you also develop this type of mystical power. What's the mystical power? To always stay in Krishna consciousness regardless of the situation, and not have any personal demands, simply continue serving Krishna and the devotees for their pleasure without thinking of one's own pleasure. And that's what Radharani was expressing when she says, when a beloved gopi shows symptoms of anger toward Krishna, Krishna is very satisfied. Indeed, he's extremely pleased when chastised by such a devotee. She shows her pride suitably, and Krishna enjoys that attitude. Then she gives up her pride with a little endeavor. So she's thinking, whatever gives Krishna pleasure, that's what I'm going to do. It doesn't matter whether I'm happy or not happy. In fact, his happiness is the only thing that makes me happy. There's nothing else that makes me happy. So Krishna is my life and soul. Krishna is the treasure of my life indeed. Indeed, Krishna is the very life of my life. I therefore keep him always in my heart and try to please him by rendering service. That is my constant meditation. My happiness is in the service of Krishna, and Krishna's happiness is in union with me. For this reason, I give my body in charity to the lotus feet of Krishna, who accepts me as his loved one and calls me his most beloved. It is then that I consider myself his maidservant. Now, I'm not going to read too much more because it gets too personal, but I'm going to go back to the original verse of the Siksastakam. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadevagni Navapana Sherak Kaira Vikchandrika Vitaradam Vidya Vaduhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipradam Pranam Vitasvadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. So, in this verse, there's a reference made. It says, let there be all victory for the chanting of the holy name of Lord Krishna, which can cleanse the mirror of the heart and stop the miseries of the blazing fire of material existence. That chanting is the waxing moon, in other words, the increasing moon, that spreads the white lotus of good fortune for all living entities. It is the life and soul of all education. The chanting of the holy name of Krishna expands the blissful ocean of transcendental life. It gives a cooling effect to everyone and enables one to taste full nectar at every step. So when it says, the waxing moon spreads the white lotus of good fortune for all living entities, the words are Shreya means good fortune, Kairavya, the white lotus, Chandrika, the moonshine, Vitaranan, spreading. Well, this white lotus is also compared to a new bride. So a new bride is very prone to do anything to please her husband. An old bride will probably do nothing to please her husband. But a new bride will do almost anything to please her husband. So I had a friend of mine, he's not a devotee, and one day he was saying, he said, I'm so unhappy, Harry. I said, why? He said, the only time I was happy in my life were the first 3 months of my marriage. He said, my wife would do anything. She would put on lipstick, she'd put on nice clothes, she'd talk sweetly to me. But since the third month, the end of the third month, I've been extremely unhappy. She does nothing to please me anymore. Well, that's a mundane example, but now you understand a little bit why it compares, the white lotus is compared to a new bride, because it brings great happiness and joy to the husband, but that's in a mundane sense. But the white lotus, the light of the waxing moon, as it gets bigger and bigger, after a hot day under the sun, the light of the moon is very refreshing at night, right? Especially the full moon. And one feels relief from that hot, scorching sun. So this is what happens when you chant Hare Krishna. You get relief from the scorching, burning sensation of lust and anger and greed. So anyway, we'll stop right there, and you get an idea. You can read this yourself. But actually it's best to read this in the company of some devotees who are, let's say, spiritually more enlightened, so you don't get the wrong idea of what you're reading. There's nothing gross in any of this, but there's very deep feelings of love for Krishna that only a devotee can understand. A materialist will look at it and just identify it with his own lusty desires and feelings, and they'll get the wrong impression. Right? So are there any questions anyone would like to ask? Any questions from the internet? No. Okay.
One question.
Microphone.
One question on the, or at least trying to understand, or how do we practice Trinadapi Suniche, Talorapi Saishna. So like sometimes, I guess my question is, if you are tolerant, some other person could think as it's my own weakness.
They take kindness for weakness?
Yeah, so how do we understand and how do we practice?
This is a hard thing to understand. Especially if you read the Bhagavad Gita, at one point Krishna says, now we have to fight. Right? But on the other hand, there's the example of Ambarish Maharaj, who doesn't try and defend himself, even though Durvasa Muni is trying to kill him. And if I'm not mistaken, he killed members of his family also. Maybe I'm making a mistake, I don't know, we have to look that up. But he did everything to destroy Ambarish Maharaj. Ambarish Maharaj did not try and defend himself at all. But Krishna defended him, and eventually Durvasa Muni had to come back to him and beg for forgiveness, and Ambarish Maharaj forgave him. After all the bad things he did, he still forgave him. So that's also exemplified by Haridas Thakur, who was beaten in 21 marketplaces in a Muslim village. They wanted to kill him, but actually Lord Chaitanya protected him. Finally, the people that are beating him, they prayed to him, they begged him, please sir, look, we're just doing our duty here. Our Muslim leader told us we have to kill you, but we see the more we beat you, the more you seem to be smiling and not feeling it, you're not dying. So please die, otherwise we're going to die. And then that would not be nice, right? You'd cause our death, and we have families. So Haridas Thakur said, no, I don't want to cause you any deaths, any problems. He said, okay, I'll die. So he goes into some kind of inanimate state, samadhi, and then the king or the Muslim ruler comes and he says, is the kafir dead? And they said, yes sir, yes Bhai Sahib. So he kicks him, he kicks Haridas, and Haridas doesn't move. He says, okay, throw him in the Ganges. So he throws a dead body into the Ganges, and then he goes downstream, then he swims out. And now he's really confused because he doesn't understand why he was beaten so terribly, but he didn't die. Anyone beaten in just one marketplace would die, the way they beat. But he was beaten in 21 marketplaces publicly, and they tried to humiliate him, but he didn't die. So he goes to see Lord Chaitanya, and the Lord is smiling, and he turns his back to Haridas Thakur, and he sees all the welts that Haridas should have had on his body on the back of Lord Chaitanya. And he realized, oh my God, the Lord took all that beating on himself to save me. So he's really overwhelmed. So then, at night, late at night, he goes to the house of the Muslim leader that condemned him to die. He knocks on the door, and the Muslim man comes to the door, the leader, and he sees him standing there. He's shocked, he starts shaking. He says, please, I thought you were dead, He said, don't ever do anything like this again. You should respect all Vaishnavas. He said, yes, I will, Allah, I will, please, don't harm me, So, here we see Haridas Thakur, he didn't try and protect himself either, but he was protected by Lord Chaitanya himself. And Ambarish Maharaj, he didn't try and protect himself. So when you're in a situation, let's say your best friend turns against you, or your wife turns against you, right? So what do? You should not try and protect yourself. You should accept it as Krishna's mercy. But let's say some enemy attacks your house and is trying to kill your wife and kids, then you have to fight. You see the difference between the two? For yourself, you're not going to do anything. But when other people are in danger, or someone's trying to attack the temple, then you have to fight fiercely to the death. Either you die or the other person dies. Does that answer your question? Okay. Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.